I was going to say, I like your shirt today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you know what? You can never go wrong with Hillcrest.
Yeah, my dad, wanted to give a shout out to my dad. Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is while you're listening.
This in the Truman Show?
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
He says, good morning, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I said that to somebody the other day.
Really?
Yeah. So anyways, thank you for being here, for listening. If this is your first time joining the Chaffin Church podcast, we hope you enjoy it. Ryan Thompson here, or Marty Holman here, but Ryan Thompson is with Marty Holman.
We are back.
We're back,
and we're ready.
After a big weekend.
To drop some knowledge.
Yo. And if you wouldn't mind jumping on the YouTube platform or the Apple Podcast platform and giving us a review, maybe rating us, and subscribing, which is always an awesome thing to do. We're really love it when people join us regularly, and we're kind of growing our listenership and enjoying it in the process. I really enjoy this time each week.
I also greatly enjoy it. But I hope our listeners do. That's the more important thing. But really please know Marty and I are enjoying doing this as well. This is good. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. So last week, we're going to get right into this. Last week, on the podcast, we had a huge weekend. The podcast was a conversation I had with my dad, who was a pastor in Indiana, Al Dancy, of course, Corey Graves, who's a pastor in Keene, New Hampshire, and Shiloh Bradshaw, who's a pastor right here. And we had a conversation about church and, generally speaking, they dropped some wisdom bombs up in the house. And so we wanted, though, it was just such a huge weekend here as we vaulted into a new era. I keep saying that.
I like that.
Yeah, I could have said catapulted.
Catapult? I think vaulted makes it sound like we have more control. Yeah.
So we vaulted into...
These angry people, they stuck me in a catapult and I just couldn't stop them.
Who was that angry senator in Vermont years ago? Howard Dean. Like, he was running for president and he went into a debate and was really angry, and it just killed all his...
Wow.
I think he ran as an independent. And I could be totally wrong about who it was.
But I think harbinger of things to come.
So, the big weekend was started on Saturday night. And so let's talk about your Saturday night first.
Wow, I didn't know we were going to do this.
I didn't either until you actually told me.
Yeah.
And you can actually tell me you don't want to talk about it.
No, it's okay. I can talk about it. Well, some of it.
Oh my word!
No, I don't want to get all of the details out there. But I did go on a wonderful date on Saturday where hiked Wachusett Mountain and then went to Wachusett Brewing Company, which is in Westminster, and it was just a really, really good time. It was cold though, and this was so with this particular woman. This is our second date. It is also the second date where neither of us dressed appropriately for the weather. And so we were both freezing. By the time we got to the brewery, we were eating outside.
Yeah.
And we had a dog with us, so we couldn't go inside. And so it was pretty cold. But it's sort of a running joke now, so it actually worked out because our first date was the same way. We were outside. But
why did you have a dog with you?
It was her dog.
And she brings her dog to dates?
This particular date, he's like a younger puppy, and she lives in the eastern part of the state, and so it's a little bit of a drive.
Yeah.
Don't really want to leave him home alone all day. So I figured, okay, well then I will design a date that includes the dog. Why not bring the dog to Wachusett, and then Wachusett Brewing Company is known for bringing dogs treats outside. And
Is that true?
oh yeah, and that is exactly what happened. And there are other dog owners there, and the dog was playing with the other dogs. It was great. It was a really good time.
Sounds like a blast.
Yes.
And you're going to have a third date or not?
We are going to have a third date.
When can she be on the podcast?
You know what? I will ask her that question, Marty.
You should, but then certainly warn her that you never know what's going to come flying out of my mouth.
It is true.
I don't want to put anybody in that position.
Marty does ask ridiculous questions.
Especially when I know that awkward times can ensue. So
It's true.
So you had
It's
a
true.
great time.
Yeah.
Great date.
Yeah.
And also, since you don't believe in prayer, we had the prayer thing here, which was really great. Oh man! So it was really interesting the night, and feel free to. I'll just tell you about it.
Yeah.
And so Alba had planned to gather these pastors, and I think 12 had said yes, and then 3 essentially canceled.
Right.
Last minute. And so we ended up having 9 pastors, and they trickled in, and then Alba had, we had Chick-fil-A cater with chicken nuggets and cookies and lemonade, and it was a really nice time of hanging out. Should I go through the names of people who were there or not? Is that not important? It was a Methodist, an Episcopalian, non-denominationals, couple Baptists.
Which, as you mentioned last Sunday, is the start of potentially a very good joke.
Yes.
Well, we have not gotten there yet. We might be able to construct that for next podcast.
Perhaps we will. Absolutely. So we gathered, we hung out, and then at 6 o'clock, a little before 6, we came up here. And I didn't know who was going to be here, but there wasn't that many people here.
Right.
So our church decided not to show up to the prayer night. But, as it were, I didn't really know what to expect. All I knew is I was going to have pastors come up here, roughly where we are sitting now, maybe up here, and they were going to give a challenge, and they were going to pray over the church. And so with about, I don't know, it was probably less than 10. So total there were about 20 people in the room. So
right.
9 pastors, maybe somewhere between 8 and 10 more people, or 8 and 11 more people. And the pastors one by one came up and did just that. And at the end of it, I think one of the last pastors said, I came hoping to encourage Chaffin Church, but what really happened was I was really affected by tonight. And even my dad said in the podcast, he was like, he spent 49 years like not connecting with pastors outside of his tradition. And it was really powerful. And the last 2 years, he's been trying to change that. So he really enjoyed it as well. Afterwards, we went downstairs and many people hung out and talked. It was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great way to kick off the Chaffin Church weekend, relaunch weekend. And not only that, but I think it's probably something we should do regularly. Obviously not necessarily to pray for Chaffin Church's relaunch, but it was so easy. It was like I just called people. Now, maybe they came because of the specific invite.
Right.
But if I could get those people, which I don't think would be a problem, to come back to something like that for a different purpose, it's possible they would invite their friends and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, ecumenical. That sounds really healthy, really good.
Yeah. Have you ever been part of a major ecumenical thing?
Yeah, back in our fellowship days, you invited me to a few of them.
Oh yeah.
We did the thing where we carry the cross on a Good Friday, I believe. That was one of those times.
Here in Holden.
Do we still do that? Is that still a thing?
They
every
do.
year?
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
John Barber kind of gets on my case sometimes because I tell him, "You have me for 1 hour," but it's a 3-hour event.
Wow, that is long.
Yeah, you go to 3 different churches. You carry the cross. Now, the last couple years, they've done it. I think they did it all outside last year, and the year before they did not do it.
You know what you should tell John? Tell him if you want us to be involved this year, you're going to have to carry it to a 4th church, Chaffin Church.
and then go to the Lutheran church. We'll fight for them as well.
By the way, the reason that's funny, if you're not familiar with our area, is that how many miles, was it 2 miles roughly?
To there?
To First Congo.
I would say 1.5 miles.
Yeah, it's about 1.5 miles away, and those 3 churches are basically right next to one another, which is why that type of event works. So we're basically just trying to make it hard on them to
You come to our place
to do it. So
well, yes. I remember several years ago. I don't know if you were a part of my church then, but I was meeting with them, and we did the Good Friday service, very liturgical. And I said, well, why don't we do like a Thanksgiving, like free worship event together? And we did it. We called it Hold in One. There ended up being like 300 people there.
Wow.
Have no idea how that many people came, but it was like a really busy night and ended up being fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Some good ideas in there.
Yeah. So, what, Ryan, did you think about Sunday? We come into Sunday, we'll talk about Sunday, and let me encourage you, if you meet with one another, feel free to talk to one another about like how you felt Sunday went, and I have my opinion, of course we'll share that. What did you think about Sunday? You came and you were able to see everything, be a part?
I thought what happened on Sunday fulfilled everything we said it would be, which was mainly this is a cultural event in the life of our church. And it just felt really good having that many people here, just in general. And it's not even about the number specifically, it's more about just what the number represents for us, just sort of this like turnaround of fortune, We sort of have a comeback story now. That was sort of what I was
that's
thinking.
really good.
That we were in a church that was close to dying. I know we don't love to use that terminology here sometimes, but it's essentially true that we were close to having to close our doors and perhaps merge with another church. There are ways out of that, right? But this particular Chaffin Church as its own entity was going to be on its way out if things were to continue as they were. And then, just fast forward to last Sunday, right? You got 13, 14, 15 people in the room back then, and then this past Sunday there's like 100 people here.
Yeah, a little over 100.
It just felt really good. And it also makes me think about all of the things that have happened between back then and now to get us there, and so it's just been a really makes me a little bit nostalgic, like, oh man, and all this pandemic stuff is in there too, and what if the pandemic hadn't been in there, like
what could have happened?
It is mind-boggling just thinking about this stuff. So. But overall, what I thought about the service, I think we checked all the boxes, and we had a good service, even on a technical level, a musical level, all of those things went well too. I really, our music team prepares, they practice, and they set up those songs pretty well. And we have our tech team, of course, our AV team. In the back there, running the brand new mixer, which literally we got it set up on Thursday for practice, 5 minutes before people started to arrive at practice to do practice on Thursday. I finished the last thing I needed to so that they could practice. And then So this is like brand new stuff that a lot of it we're having to do last minute because of supply mumbo jumbo, all those supply and issues that are going on. So anyway, sorry, I went really long.
No,
but I
that's
really
fantastic.
I just have a lot of strong feelings about this. I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah, it was such a fantastic feeling. And I like the idea of the cultural shift. And it didn't come easy, right? Like we started 4 or 5 months ago, June 22nd or something, meeting that we had as a church. And from there, by the end of June, Carl was working on the demolition with a group of people. And most of this time has been obviously the redoing of this worship space.
Right.
And then you came in and topped it off. It was fantastic.
Audio visual. That's the big thing going forward too. We still got things to do.
I mean, it was cool. Even at the very end, like this projector behind us, somebody came in and said, "Well, I don't like the way it looks." And usually we say, "Okay, well, do something about it," right? And
that literally is what we did, by the way. like I was like, "Okay, well, yeah, you don't like it, then give us some budget and we'll fix it." And that literally is what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. God is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. So I gave a message where I used "Welcome Home" as an acronym.
Welcome home.
Now, were you nervous about that at all? Like when I first told you that "Welcome Home" was going to be an acronym, did you ever think to yourself, Marty, that's going to be the longest message in the history of the world?
Literally is what I was thinking. I thought, my first thought was, okay, what are some of the longest acronyms you've seen? Probably 5, 6 letters long is what is usually considered reasonable, right?
But also long.
But Marty went like beyond even that. But it did work.
It worked, and I tell you, it worked because a lot of the things that I'd mentioned, we have already talked about in the last 6 weeks. And so I really didn't want, even though a lot of the people that were here hadn't delved into it, they are easily explainable, most of them.
Right. So welcome home. Now let me ask you this. So maybe you can tell this story. Why welcome home? What does that have to do with our organization? Beyond what you put down here.
Well, I mean, first of all, I can't take credit for it. I mean, you came up with it, and as our good friend Ed Young says, what does he say?
God gave me eyes to plagiarize. So essentially, I did see another church that had this, and I said, I need that, and so I took it, and I added it as it's sort of becoming, and maybe it will not stay this way forever, but it's sort of becoming the official tagline of our church,
Yeah. So I'll tell you why it worked for me. The same reason why we've been talking about this room and the changes made. A lot of it is so the look is very, as we've said, barn chic, right? And so the reason why I wanted it to look more like that, kind of almost like a country feel, even though the outside of the church certainly doesn't look like that. The reason I wanted inside is because it's right here on the road. It's literally, when the church was built, there was not a road here. Now 15,000 cars come by. But at the time, there was no road, and it was kind of you rode a horse down a dusty trail to get to Holden. Mm-hmm. And so there was this feeling of, there was this feeling of family in the air here. And that's always been important to me when we talk about church. And so, we did a lot of acoustic songs when I first came, and it was great to hear everyone sing, everyone be a part.
Right, because in a lot of bigger churches, they purposely pump up the sound system, and that's a different strategy. We don't hate that. It's just
Correct.
the different strategy is you pump up the speakers because a lot of people feel insecure about the way their voices sound. But if the music is loud enough, no one's going to be able to hear them anyway.
Yes.
So they can sing and raise their hands and get crazy, and no one's going to see them or hear them, and it's just them and God, right?
Yeah.
So there's that strategy. But so what did we do? So
Well, I mean, this room is so small
Right.
that it would be almost impossible to do that, because
Right.
if you were too loud, it would be so loud in this box. Like, this is a box, essentially. And so, we may be able to add on to the church as we grow, but first we probably will have to add services, right? And we're not far away from that. So filling up the room will be easy, or will be easier at least one time to do it. Mm-hmm. So my desire is to see that family atmosphere here, right? Is to see people come home to church. The other thing is the pandemic, right? People have been staying away from church. I mean, obviously, we're not done with the pandemic. However, generally speaking, people have been staying away from church more than they had in thousands of years. More than they have for all of American history, we'll say that. Mm-hmm. And so I felt that it was important, when you said welcome home, and actually the prodigal son kind of came to my mind, and for me it was just so important to have people returning to church and coming back home to this place that feels comfortable, that feels like you're sitting in your living room and that you're worshiping together with those who you love. And so that was why Welcome Home was so important to me.
And then you decided to make that an acronym.
Yeah.
And so before we actually go into what each letter stands for, like what's the general idea here? Like what are you actually using these letters for?
Yeah, so they're essentially 6 of the letters of the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6 of the 11 or 12 letters, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. 6 of the 11 are kind of core values that I've used, that I believe about the church in general. And the other 5 are things that, and I will kind of point these out as we go through them, are things I just think are important. And maybe they could be core values, but that's a lot of core values. Mm-hmm. So to me, I was thinking, like, what should a church look like? If you're coming home to church, what do you want to know about that church? What do you want to feel about that church? My parents went, they were here last weekend. They left yesterday and flew to Cleveland. When they flew to Cleveland, the first stop they went to afterwards, they stopped at Cracker Barrel. Have you ever gone to Cracker Barrel?
I have.
Okay. There are hundreds, maybe thousands in America, I don't know. But if you go into a Cracker Barrel, you feel the same things in every Cracker Barrel. Right. So you feel, first of all, there's a scent, right?
There's a scent.
There's a lot of it, and it's different depending on the room you're in, but the big room, or the shopping room, is like scented candles, cinnamon, that kind of thing. And there's more like a fireplace scent in the restaurant. And then there's the look and how you feel like you're like in an old barn.
There's the horse castrator dangling precipitously over your heads.
Please, God, don't let that fall. My kids go and they play checkers, right? They every time they go Cracker Barrel. So there's that feeling. So what are the things that you want to feel or be a part of when you're at church, when you read through Scripture and you see the church interact with one another? What are the things? That's kind of what I did want to take it back. Most of these are things that are displayed in Scripture, with a few, maybe one difference. Mm-hmm. one thing not, and that's even debatable. So I'll go through it, and we can maybe talk real briefly about each one.
Sounds good.
And maybe we'll talk less, theoretically, about the ones that we talked about the 6 weeks that we had friends here, right? The first one is W, welcome home. W for for worship every day. Worship every day. The church body should be worshiping and living out their lives every single day. And I think that was with Dan Cohane. We talked about that a few weeks ago. The second one is E, everyone is invited. And I would even say, I didn't say this in church, but I would even take that a step further and say everyone is invited to the table. Like, given that family experience, right? And that people in America, and even in the American church, have left people out. And I see that as being more pharisaical as opposed to the way Jesus lived his life. And Jesus spent time at the table with his disciples and with sinners, right? And that was the description they used. So of course we take that on. That maybe has a negative connotation, but at the time, it was people that were not a part of their little group. And so everyone is invited means a lot to me because it means that everyone has kingdom potential. Everyone is or can be, should they want to be, a part of the family of God.
Right. I like that.
The hardest thing for me is people I don't like.
Of course.
I know, but they have kingdom potential too.
And I think the hard part about that is the everyone is invited thing. To be a part of the family, to be at the table. The thing is, they're already part of the family of God. Us inviting them here doesn't make them the family of God. They're already the family of God, and we're just inviting existing family in.
That's true.
And but the fact that applies to people we don't like, that is the hardest thing, man. Right?
It's so difficult. I could name
how
names.
many crazy uncles are there?
How many former pastors?
Former pastors,
right? There are people in our churches in the past,
right?
Who maybe they left, maybe they got mad at me or whatever. Right. How many people? Those people have kingdom potential. Maybe people who you don't like. Jesus talked about that all the time. Our enemies. Love, love, love. Which reminds me of L. L equals love. And what is the loving thing to do for that church? A lot of times politics takes place over love. And of course I used that quote last week from Carl Lentz, who said who answered Katie Couric when she asked him, what's your policy on that thing? And he said, our policy on that is love. Everything else is a conversation. And so that to me is so perfect. Agreed. C, care for one another. Care for one another. This is the first thing to go when a church gets systematic. Specifically for annoying people. People don't, and I'll be the first to say that, it's hard to take care of people who are annoying.
I have found that a lot of churches that become systematic, and this is just a great irony of this, they become systematic, and what is one system that they don't have? Some sort of system of care, right? They literally take one of the most important things that you can do as a church, which is care for your members, care for the attendees, care for the people that are around here. If you try to care for people outside of your building, you're risking, and I think we should take this risk, but you're risking that they'll say no. if you're caring for people in your congregation, most of the time they'll say yes, and we don't even do it, right? Like,
yeah.
There's this whole like in-reach, outreach kind of spectrum, and in-reach, man, we're not good at that.
Not at all. One of the things we've done in the past at churches, Fellowship Church, where we were at, is we had our small groups do a significant part of that. And that is really, really important. I would say that's probably the most important, because that helps, like pastorally, it keeps us from having to take care of everybody, but it's a significant effort for small groups that are running and not dysfunctional to build one another up, and so super important. Let's care for one another. Only Jesus. And this is a take off of Jesus is Lord, and of course Jay is not a part of Welcome Home. So Jesus being preeminent. I use Colossians chapter 1 verses 15 to 20, that great poem that Paul talked about in Colossians. And so Jesus being who we worship as a church, being our focal point. And so there you have it. M, meeting together regularly. Joe Griffin preached on this a couple of weeks ago, and in October, and did a great job. So how important is this, Ryan?
Pretty important.
Yeah?
I would say, I hear people talking a lot about, I can just go and pray on my own, or I don't need, and 99.999% of those people are just not doing those things because they're saying they're doing them, but they're not, because there's no, feeling, there's no oxytocin in the room, right? Like joining people together, like you get, and I would argue that you can even get some of that on a live stream, maybe not all of it, but even joining together that way, you can get some of that,
Yeah.
But if you're just like, I'm going to go and pray on my own, there's something so unique that you are missing from not meeting together regularly. If you are not meeting together regularly, there are unique benefits from that you are missing, and those benefits are huge.
Have you always felt that way?
Yes.
Has there ever been a time where you've stepped back and said, I'm not going to go to church this month? Or
Well, I do also think, and good question, because you don't want to you want to recognize the complexity of things, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so
yeah.
like I really, really do strongly feel there is a such thing as being burned out, on a church, or maybe you are directly burned by a church, and you need a little bit of time off from maybe that particular church. But sometimes people need time off from church altogether. We've all seen it.
Yeah.
And I have personally seen people that, and I'm one of them, that needed a little bit of time off, and came back more healthy after that time period. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
I took some time right before I came here, and I went to a couple different churches.
Yeah.
But there were a couple months I didn't go to church.
Right, but the thing is, so what you did was intentional. You knew,
Correct.
hey, this is a temporary thing. I'm going to be back.
Yep.
I'm doing this. So it's not just like this unintentional, like, hey, I'm going to watch these 2 Netflix shows, and those are done. I think I'll just watch more. Like that's not what happened. It's not some unintentional, break.
Yeah.
You're actually taking a break for self-care reasons.
Right.
If it's not for self-care, don't do it. Don't.
Interesting.
That's good. Because if it's not for self-care, the benefits of meeting together regularly just win. They just win every time. It's really, really good for you. So
it's good. Yeah. The last E in welcome is environment. And that's the one I would say that probably is not, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it's probably not found in the Bible. I've heard people use the term and use the core value of excellence. And that felt cold to me. So I decided to use environment instead. And the reason I did is because a lot of great environments are excellent, but not all of them, right? Sometimes you get breweries, right? Breweries, they're like, I use Stone Cow Brewery as an example. Have you ever been there in Barrie?
I haven't.
Fantastic place. And I wouldn't look at that place and go, man, this is an excellent place. No, it's like a barn, a huge barn. I'm sure their brewery is excellent. I don't know. I'm not really into that sort of thing. But it's a barn and then a cement slab with long wooden picnic tables where people can come together. So there are probably things that are excellent, but more than that, the environment is the place you just want to be in. Like the kids can go outside and play on these like old rustic kind of playgrounds. Not the kind that they'll gash their head on a nail, but but like just lots of fun things to do and so, but environment like in a small group is really important. How cozy the house feels, or even one-on-one. When a person goes to eat for lunch or whatever. To me, that's important enough. You don't like.
Well, I mean, I think environment is biblical. Like you find, particularly in the Old Testament, there are so many details about the first temple, about Solomon's temple, for instance. Pages and pages and pages of details about the exact way things are to look, the exact sizes of the room, the way the priests are to act while they are in there, the things they are to say, who is not going to be allowed in that environment. All of those things so are in there. And then you have Jesus was also, he chose particular environments for particular things. The Last Supper, he chose this.
He did.
He chose like some sort of dining area in someone's house.
Yep.
To have that experience with his disciples, and so and then there's the time he had a crowd following him, so he went out on a boat a little bit and he spoke from out on the boat, and guess what that does?
Right.
That creates a natural amplification system. Sound bouncing over the water will amplify by several times before it gets to the listeners. So he's like literally building an ancient PA system, like out of nothing.
That's good.
Leave it to Jesus, right? So anyways, so those things are in there. I think they're a little bit harder to see because a lot of the ways we do things have different, like using our technology, for instance.
Right.
It's very, very different than a lot of things they were worried about.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Environment. Okay, H. Hungry.
Which I am right now, by the way.
Are you?
I'm very hungry right
We'll have to get some dinner later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hungry. And specifically what I meant is when we come together, we are hungry for more of God, for more of to learn, hungry to take a step towards spiritual growth. Generally those kinds of like hunger for more. And so I really think that bettering yourself in general is important.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens in a dying church is that particular church, whatever kind of church it is, they feel like they have it. And so they do whatever that is. Now, the thing about that is most of the time that stems from laziness. It stems from, I don't want to get creative. I don't want to take this step. I don't want to better myself. And so regarding the church and in life, just being hungry for more, I think is awesome. So that when people come into this place, not just the first time, but for the 50th time, for the 100th time, for the third year, they feel like, what do I have to offer? and what can I gain from participating in this church gathering?
That's really good.
So that's where the H is. O, oneness. Oneness, which is another way of saying
Unity?
unity. Yes.
I don't know. It was just a guess. I didn't know if it was right.
Yeah, it
There you
was straight on.
You didn't have a U to work with, so
It's true.
you had to buy a vowel, and O was the only one that was available.
So I had to, actually, true story, I went to the synonyms of unity, and oneness was there.
That's how you got it.
That's how you got it.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. You have this great statement I've heard you say before, that unity, not uniformity. And what do you mean when you say that?
Well, basically, it's just that there's a profound difference between unity and uniformity. And I think when a lot of pastors say unity, what they really mean is uniformity. But uniformity isn't what Jesus was asking for, in his final prayer in John. He asked for his disciples to have unity together, to be united around a cause. Not to be uniform, not to be the same and to believe exactly the same things.
Right.
Those are two different things, because the church was never meant to have every believer be cookie cutter. That's just not the way that God intended for things to be, So, but being united means, in order for me to be united with Marty, I need to purposefully sacrifice some of my comfort to overcome. If I disagree with Marty on anything, I have to take, Marty can beat me up, but I have to take stock of myself and say, okay, Ryan, is this thing that Marty is believing actually toxic? No. Well, then I have to put that down in my mind. Because it's not, it may, and we can talk about it, we can have a civil conversation, but it's not worth me getting in a fight with Marty about, it's not worth me leaving the church about, it's not worth any of that. That is unity. Being able to identify those differences and say, but you know what? We're united on those on these main things.
Yeah.
It's basically keeping one of the pastors that Marty and I know, keeping the main thing the main thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to make not the main thing, because then you end up excommunicating Marty from the church because he believes in full immersion baptism, right? Like, we don't want that stuff to happen, because it's ridiculous. So, one example in the denomination that I work for, just very briefly, is, and I love this example, this is unity and not uniformity. This perfectly demonstrates the concept. So what they do is, pastors in the denomination have to sign a written statement that says, when it comes to baptism in the church. Now, baptism is a very contentious issue in some faith groups, and it used to be that way in the Evangelical Covenant Church, which is the denomination that I work for. So what these old Swedes did and said is that, okay, you know what we're going to do? This is such a non-issue, or we're going to make this a non-issue by making you sign a statement that says, you will baptize people either way, so full immersion, like taking the person fully down into like a tub of water, or a sprinkling baptism, which is the more Catholic way to do it, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to do either
Yep.
at request, and not only that, but you also cannot try to convince this person who comes to you and wants to do, let's say Marty comes to me and he wants to do a sprinkling baptism. I cannot, as a pastor, try to convince Marty to do a full immersion baptism at that point. I have to explain to them how that other baptism is going to go, and then I have to do it.
Yeah.
I can explain to them what the options are,
right,
but I am not allowed to lead them towards one or the other, or share my opinion even on it, because so it's sort of like that issue. We are not going to let that, lead to disunity.
Yeah.
But we also don't have to be uniform on it for this whole thing to work, right? And so that was their clever way of getting around that. And I love that example because I wish we could do that in a lot of issues in the church that have become just very divisive over the years that really don't need to be.
Yeah.
You know, and so understanding the difference between unity and uniformity, I think could really help us get to that oneness that you have here.
That's good. M, missionary instinct. Missionary instinct. And really, Al talked about this. Angela did a great job talking about unity. And Al talked about missionary instinct. And really, that's just allowing the Spirit of God to move you to be on mission wherever you're at. And so, once again, that's not worshiping every day, right? Worshiping through hard circumstances and all that. But that's being on mission. That is,
and it's instinct, right? So it and we know this isn't really true, but it sort of seems like it comes out of nowhere. Like you don't need to think about it. It sort of just happens because you're sort of in that place, right?
Yeah. It's right on. And then E, encouragement. And we want to be a church that encourages those who come in and those who are leaving. And sometimes that's a hard encouragement, right? That's saying, I feel like last week I left people kind of both with a hard encouragement, grow up a little bit, and
I don't remember you saying those exact words, but I wish you had.
Well, actually, I said the Father
I'm sorry.
Wants us to be the grown-ups in the room.
I thought differently. Yes, I know what you mean now. Yep.
Awesome. And so either way, we want you to be encouraged. If you're hurting, you come into this place that you are encouraged and not beat up. And sometimes there is a cause for, when you go work out, sometimes you have harder workouts than others. But either way, we want you to feel, generally speaking, encouraged and not like you're a part of some family drama when you come into this place, which happens at churches.
Marty, I think you are one of the most encouraging people that I know.
That was very encouraging, Ryan. Thank you. Did you know you were being encouraging when you said that?
No, I just wanted to share that with you. I really do believe that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on. Thank you. So thanks for listening to that. Those are things that we think are vitally important to the church. I'm sure there are others, but it wasn't Welcome Homer or Welcome Home Marty or Welcome Home. It was just Welcome Home. And so I had those 11 letters to work with. And I'm encouraged about the direction of Chaffin Church.
Me too.
Good news, if you want to get ready to do the announcements, I'll do the birthdays real quick because there's a lot of them. We have some good news, Chaffin good news. Joe Shea, you know Joe?
I've met him, yeah.
You met him? Joe, who is a pastor of a congregational church now in North Brookfield, was a pastor, or was a college guy. We worked with campus ambassadors for a while.
Right.
So Joe Shea turns another year older. Jack Green turns another year older. He's a teenager here at Chaffin Church. Kelly Maxwell is not a teenager at Chaffin Church, but she does attend, and she's a fantastic person. Kelly turns another year older. And then we have two people who are turning another year older on December 1st. Angela Green and Amy Benoit. Two elementary teachers, maybe two of the best that I know.
I have not seen them teach, but I would assume they would both be super great at it.
Right? So good.
Please, I just want to travel back in time and have you as my teacher. That's what I want.
Right?
Yep.
Right there. And then Jessica Shaw turns another year older on December 3rd. That is my sister-in-law, and also attends here at Chaffin Church. So
very nice.
Yeah. Happy birthday, everybody.
Happy birthday to you. 6. There's 6 of you. Sorry, I had to look at that a little bit. Okay, so we have some announcements here, announcements being events coming up. So there are 5 of these events, and there are no times on here, so hopefully Marty can help me fill in some of these details if they're not. So the first thing we have coming up, December 2nd, we have a ladies' night out. And, I kind of wish there were some ladies in this room right now, because we would get some like, woo, we get some of that going on. Which we get at every service when we talk about this, because it is exciting. Ladies' night out has been pretty awesome so far from what I've heard from some of these ladies.
Yeah, they've done it for 2 months.
So Angela Rogers is the brainchild behind this event, and it's going very well. What time is that on December 2nd?
I think it says Thursday night at 6.
Okay, Thursday night, December 2nd, 6 p.m. here at the church. So show up for that. December 4th, we have Christmas tree lighting in Holden. I believe that is more of a town event, but we would like to invite you to do it alongside of us. So is there some sort of we're going to meet up ahead of time? Is that what's happening?
No, here's why this is such an amazing event. Ryan, have you ever seen a Hallmark Christmas movie?
I have sat through several of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, sometimes they have Christmas tree lightings.
Yes.
So apparently this is a thing in Holden, and I didn't even know it. What happened was right before the pandemic, 2019, my daughter is a Girl Scout, and she was going to be singing at some event for Christmas at the town hall. So Kara was like, we should go. And I'm like, okay. So we went, and it was literally like a Hallmark Christmas. Like, it was so fantastic. There was like Girl Scouts and other singing songs, and then you could go into First Congo, where you could get popcorn and hot chocolate. I think they're going to do all that outside this time. And then there was songs and announcements, and then Santa came and sat and took pictures with the kids. And then they lit up the town Christmas tree there in Holden. It was fantastic. So that is, I'm not sure what time that is, but that is December 4th.
Nice. Okay. We will get more details to you about that when we have them. December 11th, we have a food and coat drive here. That's from 10 to noon here, and I believe it's twice a month we do these, right? Once a month. We do them once a month. So that's December 11th this month. And I think I have not spoken to the outreach team about this, but I think it would be super awesome if we could collect a gigantic amount of coats for this month in particular, to fill as many of those needs as these charities that we give them to have, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be cold this season and might not have a home to live in, and so really good thing to do, a very easy thing to do, to just give some old coats. So please be a part of that. Come down between 10 and noon on December 11th to do that. That's Saturday, December 11th, correct?
Yep.
Okay. December 19th, we have our Jingle Jam. And if you were around back in like the fellowship days, when I was at fellowship, we used to do these things called family experiences, and they would happen once a month at fellowship. We do 2 family experiences a year here, so it's a little bit less frequent, but we sort of put some more effort into the production of it, right? So Jingle Jam is going to be really fun. I went to one Christmas of 2019 when I was here, and it was just excellent. I hate musicals, and I'm just not the most like Christmassy person ever, but I genuinely enjoyed the Jingle Jam that year. Mr. Scrooge! Mr. Scrooge, Grinch, all those things I've been called. But the Jingle Jam was genuinely really cool, so you should definitely join us for that, or help get your children involved, and you can talk to Dan Cohane about that. Send us an email or a comment on YouTube if you want to get hooked up with Dan on that. Okay, and then December 24th, we have a Christmas Eve gathering at 5 p.m. here at the church. And It's going to be great. Last year, we tried to have one, but it was outdoors, and it made me a little bit sad. But this year's going to be much better. We're going to have it in here, and it's going to be at 5 p.m., and there will be, social distancing and all that like we normally have. So it will be safe, and it will be good.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey, as far as giving is concerned, we're so thankful to those of you who called Chaffin Church your church home. Thank you for participating in this podcast and checking it out. We love it. If you could also support us by giving, you could do that in person. You just bring it to the church here, 155 Shrewsbury Street. Maybe you're driving by. Or you could do it online at chaffin.church/giving. Or you can text any dollar amount to 84321. And that helps us to continue making these and not only these, but other things that we do here at Chaffin Church in our effort to disciple and to grow disciples up to be followers of Jesus here in this place. And so thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a part. And thank you for listening. This specific episode, we wouldn't mind if you would share it, if you could. That would be awesome. Mainly because we've talked about the core values of our church and what we want our church should be about. And so this would be an excellent episode to kind of share with somebody maybe who's looking for a church or looking to visit Chaffin Church. We'd love for you to share this with them.
They can all hear about my date at the beginning.
They can all hear about Ryan's date.
Go ahead and share it.
Super
That's
important.
totally fine.
And that's it. Hey, thanks for joining us. This has been good news.
Now go and give some out.